Welcome back to the Engineered Angler. It's time to put a finish on this big swim bait. If you haven't seen the video of making this lure, I'll put a link to the playlist on the top right corner. Now I've got to pull this thing apart before I even do any kind of work to finish it. So I'm pulling the pins. This lure really was never meant to be a finished lure to fish with. It really was a platform for experimentation to see how well I could get it to swim. So I'm going to start by covering it with aluminum foil, and that'll hide a lot of the imperfections I left in the carving and the surface of the body that I didn't really sand very well. This is a handy little trick. By drawing it on the back, you can fold it over and then cut out both the right and the left side for each piece all at once. Works out pretty nicely. So since both pieces are exactly the same, just mirror images, you can lay them in and get them to come out pretty much the same. Here, I'll do it again with the head. And once I've got it laid on there, I can burnish it in with either an aluminum tube or a piece of really smooth stainless steel. That'll help you get all those wrinkles out, and also make sure you get all the detail on the carving. Okay, so I've got all the foil on all four pieces of the body. So the next step is to draw in a lateral line across the side of the lure. And I want to do that because I want to have a line to separate the top and bottom of the lure. My plan is to put 3D scales from the lateral line up around the top of the lure, and then just have flat foil on the bottom of the lure. Now I'll cut along that lateral line I drew, and this way I can remove the top half of the foil. What that does is it allows me to put the foil scales on and have it blend a little better with the foil on the bottom. Okay, so we're ready for the next step. Now I'm going to cut all those scales out. Now this is a little bit tedious and it takes a little bit of patience, but if you get a little bit of a pace going, you can actually get quite a bit done in a short amount of time. Now I'll collect the actual scale parts and get rid of all the waste. So you have to start the scale pattern at the very end, and that's the smallest part of the lure, so it's a little bit time consuming. I snip it off right at that line that I cut. Once you got it all on, you can burnish it, smooth it out just like you do with the flat foil. Now I'm not gonna show you every bit of putting all this stuff on, but if you haven't seen the tutorial, I'll put a link right here up the upper right corner of the screen. Okay, so I've got the 3 back body parts done with the scales. I just need to do the head. Now the head I'm only going to do to right about here, and then along the edge of the gill plate, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the head all the way down to the lips. Getting there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clean this mess up. These guys are pretty much done as far as foiling, and I'm going to then wipe this down with some alcohol and get some paint on it, and we'll start doing the highlighting. Okay, so I've done the very first segment, and I've sprayed it with some green, and after I sprayed it on, I just wiped off about 90% of it. I want to leave a little bit in the lateral line, and then of course inside the scales. Alright, let's do the head. So we'll get started on the head. I want to do the head in 2 colors. I want to use the green in the gill areas, the eye area, of course the scales again,
and a little bit on the top of the mouth, but the bottom of the mouth and this lower gill part I'm going to do in white. And we'll start from down here. I'm just trying to get color down inside the grain of the details here. Alright, let's start wiping this off. And you see how much 3D it really gives it. It really makes it look a lot more interesting than just the silver of the aluminum. Alright, so this is what it looks like as it sits right now. So you can see how it starts to look a lot more 3D. Granted, it looks a little bit rough, but when we get the rest of the colors on there, it's really, I think, gonna come together. Alright, I'm gonna use some opaque white. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the opaque white up inside the bottom here. All those grooves. Okay, and so again, I'm trying to keep it inside those grooves, so I'm just going to wipe and try not to get the paper towel inside of the grooves. Alright, pretty happy with that. I'll continue to work on this just a little bit more, but I really want to get to a clear coat to protect this and to cover up all those little seams. That'll really pull together the paint job. Well, I just got this out of the UV chamber, so it's got one coat of UV clear. I really need to get these inner edges painted. Now, I've got them clear coated, so I don't have any seams. So I'm going to paint those silver to kind of match that aluminum, and then I'm going to continue to do the paint job with these things separated. Okay, we'll start off with this wicked aluminum. So I've got that silver paint in the transition area at the ends of these sections, and you can see the foil actually blends in real nice now. So here's the color pattern I'm going to go with. It's a pilchard, which is a bait fish, but instead of having it a blue top like that, I'm going to do it in green. So it'll be green highlights on the top, slightly on the bottom like that. I'll have the little dots, I'll have that golden line in there, but I'm also going to have a little bit of sort of a violet color in here. Alright, so now I'm going to put a series of dots going back from the eye, and I'm going to use this. And there, I've got a series of dots started, and then I'll continue those going back. Now I'm going to use some of this color shift paint. So this paint is called Borealis Green, and I'm just misting the darkest areas around the eyes, maybe those spots. So, only thing left to do is to give it another clear coat, and then I'll put the eyes on it, and then I'll assemble them, and then I'll give it a last clear coat. So I've gone ahead and put the eyes on. So now I'm just gonna put the clear coat on. I'm using one of the Chinese brands of UV Cure resins. All right, that's one coat. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the turner, and I'll give it another coat later. Back in about an hour. Okay, so I've been out doing a bunch of lawn work, and this should be done. Yeah, that looks really good. But that's looking pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with that. There's my tail, and this is just some pieces of fiber from a paintbrush, put on a piece of tape, and we'll set that with some UV glue. So first, I'm gonna go ahead and get some glue in there, so when I slide that in, it'll already have glue holding it in. Now, I'll go ahead and set that little bit of glue with the UV light, and then I'll take this same little bottle and I'll run a bead of glue all the way around it, and then we'll pull that tape off. And there you go. Okay, so I've given it another light coat of UV resin, just enough to cover any kind of like little nicks and scratches I put on it, doing all the rest of the stuff I did, and being really careful not to foul the hinges. But let's take a look at it. And so here it is. Again, a little more color than I had originally intended, but I like the way it looks, and I really like the way the color shift on top kind of works. You can see it go to violet and then green. I'm happy with it. Now I just need to get some good weather to get it in the water and get some underwater shots. So as always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.